Okay, after we ended up analyzing the properties of the pinning model for the random walk, we realized, in fact, that maybe we were going in the wrong direction in the sense that things would be much simpler by considering only the process of the return time to 0 of the random walk. So the new setup, and this is the setup for the rest of the course, is that now our polymer measure, it will be, so the pinning measure, it will be the law of a renewal process tau. So we start from a given renewal process which has law P, okay? And we want P to have a power law tail. So we suppose that there is some alpha larger than 0, okay, such that asymptotically Kn behaves like n to the minus 1 plus alpha. And the pinning measure is defined by this density. We take a density which is proportional to exponential beta times the number of renewal points in the interval 0n. Okay? And Zn is the partition function associated to this system. And what we saw last time is that you can compute explicitly the free energy for this problem. And it's given, so I think this is a better formulation than what I gave you last time. So when beta is less than minus log 1 minus k infinity, so k infinity, it's just the probability that tau 1 is equal to infinity. And I suppose a priori that it can be 0, it can also be positive. Okay? So the free energy is equal to 0 for beta smaller than this. And it's given by the inverse of some function g, which is given, so g, it's a function from r plus to, so let's see, minus log 1 minus k infinity. Infinity. And to b, it associates minus log of the sum from n larger than 1 exponential minus bn kn. Okay, and when I write this, n larger than 1, of course, I don't take into account n equals infinity. Okay, so last time we said, okay, B, it's the solution of this equation, if you remember. Okay. And, well, this exactly means that B is equal of G minus 1 of beta. Okay. If you try to express beta as a function of B, this is what you will get. Okay, so if beta is defined piecewise, on some interval it's equal to 0, and on the other one it's the inverse of this function, which is a very smooth function. It's an analytic function. Okay, and in fact we saw more than that. What we saw is that Zn beta, by a simple computation, it was equal to exponential n f of beta times p times the probability that n belongs to is a renewal point for some renewal tau tilde, where tau tilde is the renewal associated to kn equal exponential minus exponential beta sum from n equals 1 to infinity exponential minus f beta n k. Okay? And in particular, when f beta is positive, this renewal, it has a finite mean. So because of the the renewal theorem, this thing converges to this quantity. Okay? So, any question on those statements? Okay, so what I forgot to tell you last time is that, in fact, when you do this computation, it gives you the partition function, but it gives you much more than that, because if you repeat the computation for not the whole partition function, but for just for one trajectory, what we can prove is that the law of maybe I will write this as a lemma. The law of the renewal point in the segment 0n under Pn beta is given by So basically, if you look at the process restricted to the segment 0n, then this condition p tilde and the pinning measures are the same. Okay, so you have to be careful. You really have to this restriction. I mean, you really have to restriction to the first n points in order to have equality. Because if you look at events that concern jump after n. In this pinning measure, you didn't modify the probability. Okay? After n, you have no more reward for touching the wall, so the jump will just have this law. So after n, the laws are very different. But this is not what we are interested in, because really, I mean, remember at the beginning, we were only interested at random walks of length n. So here we are really interested in this process. So we have totally described the law of the process we were interested in. Okay, and maybe I will prove this. So, okay. What is the probability that you have k contact points that are situated at points T1, T2, Tk. So this is equal to, okay, so I have exponential beta k, which is the Hamiltonian term. Then I have k T1, k T2 minus T1, k T2, Tk minus Tk minus 1. Okay, so this is what I get by the expression of the density, and I have to renormalize everything by Zn beta. Okay. Okay, let's say that this guy is 0. And we have t0 equals 0 and tn equal n. Tk equal n. Okay, I need to impose these things because, I mean, of course, 0 and n, they have to belong to my renewal because of my boundary condition. Okay? So now I can rewrite this as exponential n times f beta times k of t1, k t2 minus t1, k tk minus tk minus 1. Okay, by going from k to k tilde, I absorb this exponential term because each term will eat exponential beta. Okay, but what I have to add here is this exponential f beta n term that is not present. So. And all these things will factorize and give me this exponential n f beta. If you remember the computation of last time too. And Zn beta, it's just exponential n f beta times p tilde n in tau. Okay. So these things simplify, and what I get is the probability that tau cap 0n is equal to t0, t1, tn, knowing that n belongs to 2. Okay? This is just this expression. So, okay, not only we have an explicit expression for the free energy, but we know also exactly what the renewal looks like. Okay, so now we'll try to see what kind of information it can give us for the pinning measure. Okay, so what we want to say is that okay, we have lots of contact. I mean, basically, as we are conditioning to an event which has finite probabilities, the measure will basically inherit all the properties of this one. So I will give two examples. Okay. So the first thing is, okay, let's look at the number of contacts. So we have the probability that okay. So if you fix a positive epsilon, and you look at the probability that the number of contacts is between f prime beta minus epsilon n and f prime beta plus epsilon n, then this thing tends to 1. So it means that asymptotically, the number of contacts is of order f prime beta times n with probability 1. Okay, this is what this statement means. And the second thing, okay, let's now we say that we care about the longest jump that we have. So let Ln be the max max for okay, tau k minus 1. Well, okay, so the longest jump in the interval 0 n. Okay, so the max of tau k minus 1 on all the with I want tau k to be smaller than n. And what I have is that okay, for all epsilon, the probability that ln of tau is in f beta minus 1 minus epsilon log n f beta minus 1 plus epsilon log n tends to 1. So if I look at the longest jump in the interval 0 n, I know that it will be of order f beta to the minus 1 times log n. So I know that the longest jump is of order log n, and I know that I know the constant that I have to put in front of the log. Okay, so let me tell you how to prove these things. So because of what we've said, if I look at an event that only depends, an event for this process, okay, for tau restricted to 0 n, what I have is that this is equal to this, okay, and this is smaller than this quotient. So as here my denominator will tend to some positive constant, if I want to show that the probability of some an tends to 0, okay, I just have to show that the probability of an under p tilde goes to 0. Okay? So now let us look at the probability. We'll be interested at the probability that hn of tau, say, is larger than f prime beta plus epsilon n, and we want to show that this guy goes to 0. Okay? And if I can do this, you can believe that I can also do that with a minus and with a smaller. So, okay, this is equal to the probability that tau f prime beta plus epsilon n is larger than n. So I mean, here I should put some integer part here, but let's say that we don't really care. It's not important. And I want to show that this guy goes to 0. So this is the sum of a certain number of independent random variables. So what I will want to do is apply the law of large number. And to apply the law of large number, what I need to know is what is the expectation of tau 1. Okay, so the expectation of tau 1, it's equal to the sum of n kn over the sum of kn. Okay, so I mean, this is just the sum of n kn, but I can still divide by 1. Again, the same thing. And what it gives me is the sum of exponential minus f beta of over sum of exponential minus n f beta k. Okay, and this is just equal to g prime of f beta, where g prime is this function. Okay, if I derive the log, what I will obtain is this quotient. So this is just f prime of beta to the minus 1. Okay, so this is just the, I'm just using the formula for the derivative of an inverse. Okay, so now I'm pretty much done. By the law of large number, what I have is that tau f minus 1 beta plus epsilon n tends to f beta times what did I do? It's here to f prime. Okay. So f prime beta minus 1, okay. F prime beta plus epsilon times n, which is equal to n plus epsilon over f prime beta. Okay, so because these things are asymptotically equivalent, of course, this thing will happen with a probability this thing will happen with a probability that tends to 0. Okay, I made a mistake at the beginning. This event is equal to this event. You have to reverse the sign of the inequality. Okay, if you want to have lots of renewal points, you want the tau to be smaller than n. Okay, so if you want to have the inequality in the other direction, it's not complicated. You apply the law of large number for f prime beta minus epsilon n, and you will get something similar. Is this point clear? Okay, so now let's look at the estimate of the largest jump. So we want to look at p tilde that ln tau is larger than f beta to the minus 1 plus epsilon. So if I want to show that this tends to 0, so an easy way to bound it is to say I want to show that among the first n jumps, there are, I don't have a one which is too big. So of course I'm overcounting here because, okay, before reaching n, I will have a bit less than n jumps, okay? I have only n jumps if all my jumps are of length 1, which is not very likely to happen. But this I can compute very well. So the probability of an increment being larger than that, it's equal to, okay, so 1 minus the sum for n larger than f minus 1 beta plus epsilon log n kn. Okay, so this is the probability that one jump is larger. Okay, so this is the probability that one jump is smaller than this quantity. Okay. So if I want the probability that all the jumps are smaller, I have to put the power n here. And if I want the probability that one jump is larger, I have to put 1 minus. Okay. Okay, so this probably is exactly equal to this, but in fact, what is easier to say is to say that this is smaller than n times the probability that tau 1 is larger than f minus 1 beta plus epsilon log n. Maybe this is easier. Did you agree with that? Okay, and now what I have to do is to check that this goes to 0. So this is equal to n times the sum from n larger than this thing of kn, so tilde kn. This is exponential minus bn kn time exponential beta. So I will write small b for f beta. Okay. Kn, I can say that it's smaller than 1. Okay, this is a bit rough, but and what I will get here is, okay. So if I take k, if I just say that k is smaller than 1, what I have here is a geometric sum. So it's smaller than, it's equal to sum of 1 minus 1 over b, and what I have here is exponential b f minus 1 beta plus epsilon log. Okay? Okay, so what I just did is I replace this by 1 to have an inequality. And then I use that the sum from n larger than k of exponential minus b, it's smaller than exponential minus kn and 1 minus exponential minus b. Okay? And so this is equal to n. And this term, it's equal to, okay, so b times f, so times, I have to be careful. So b times f to the beta minus 1, it's equal to 1. So what I get is n to the, so I have a minus 1 here. Okay. I get n minus 1 minus epsilon b over 1 minus epsilon minus b and exponential beta. So it's equal to exponential beta 1 minus exponential b n to the minus epsilon b. Okay, so you have something that tends to 0. So if I try to do this in the other direction, I have to be a bit more careful because, okay, here I could bound from above the number of jumps by n, but there is no obvious bound from below. But what we can do is use the first statement. Probability that ln of tau is smaller than f beta minus 1 plus epsilon times log n. Okay. It's smaller than, say, the probability that the max from k from 1 to n f prime beta over 2 of tau k minus 1 larger than this quantity here, plus the probability that h and beta is smaller than n f prime beta over 2. So either I have less than this number of jump. Okay, I mean, if the maximum is too small, either I have less than this number of jump, or the maximum of these jumps is small. Okay? And thanks to our first statement, we know that this is small. This goes to, the probability of this goes to 0. Okay, because we know that hn of beta, it's of order n times f prime of beta. Okay, so now let's deal with the first term. So the first term okay. Let me write n prime to be n f prime of beta over 2. Okay. So the probability that the max of tau k minus 1 minus tau k is larger than something, it's equal to 1 minus the probability that the max is smaller than something. And here, the probability that the max of n prime independent variable is smaller than a quantity, let's call it A. Well, it's just the probability that 1 is smaller than A to the power n prime. Okay, so this is equal to the probability that tau 1 is smaller than f beta to the minus 1 minus epsilon again to the power n prime. Okay? So this is equal to this is smaller than exponential minus n prime times the log of p of tau 1 smaller than beta minus 1 plus epsilon log n. Okay. Which is okay, so log of x it's smaller than x minus 1. Okay. I can say that this is smaller than exponential minus n prime log times the probability that tau 1 is larger than f prime beta to the minus 1 plus epsilon. So there's no prime here. Again. Okay. And now I just have to compute this term. And I want to show basically that this term is much larger than n prime to the minus 1. Okay. So the probability that tau 1 is larger than this, it's equal to the sum and larger than f beta.
And the minus 1. There's no problem with the minus x minus 1.
Okay, x minus 1, it's equal to minus 1 minus x. Okay, so I've put the minus here, and here, okay, I take. Thanks for the question. Okay, so I have n larger than this, plus epsilon again, exponential beta, exponential minus bn, kn. So I just consider the first term here because I want a lower bound. Okay. So this is larger than exponential beta times k of f beta to the minus 1 plus epsilon log n. And of course here, I mean, I take something like the integer part. And this exponential terms gives me exponential minus b f beta to the minus 1 plus epsilon log n. Okay, and okay, here basically I'm good because what I have here is the power is n to an exponent which is okay. Sorry, I've been. This computation is quite long, so there is lots of way of being confused. But okay, so here what I get is n to the minus 1 times something that goes to infinity, which is n to epsilon b. Okay. What I have here, it's larger than a constant times log n to the minus 1 plus alpha. Okay, I don't care about these things because I mean they just it's, but the constant is not really important when n tends to infinity. So this is because of my assumption on Kn. Okay, I say that K decays like a power law. So what I have is that n primes times p of tau 1 larger than my quantity, it goes to infinity when n goes to infinity. Okay, n prime, it's asymptotically equivalent to n, so I can write as well n. Okay, and this finishes the proof because what I have here is okay, exponential minus something that tends to infinity. Okay, so basically the summary of this is that in the localized phase, okay, the trajectory of the polymer, not only it has a lot of contact, but also there are absolutely no big space, like the biggest space between two consecutive contacts, it's of order log n. And in fact, you can identify the constant in front of the log n. Okay, so as all these results, they do depend on the expression of f of the free energy. What we will try to do now is to try to know how this f beta behaves first near the critical point and then near infinity. So So when beta tends to beta c from the right, what we have is that f beta so here in this theorem, I will assume that alpha is not equal to 1. Basically, you would have a similar reason when alpha is equal to 1, but it's technically a bit more difficult. So f beta behave like a power law, so beta minus beta c to the power max alpha minus 1, 1. Okay. And this constant, ck, you can compute it explicitly. So it's equal to let's see, 1 minus k infinity times let's get the okay, and it's equal to ck times gamma to the 1 minus alpha over alpha to the minus 1 over alpha. So this is if alpha is larger than 1, and this is if alpha is smaller than 1. And gamma, it's the gamma function, which is defined by x to the s minus 1 exponential minus x dx. Okay, so this is the behavior for close to infinity, so it behaves like power law. And the second thing I promised is the behavior this is the behavior at criticality, and the behavior at infinity is given by okay, so at first order, f beta is equivalent to beta, and at second order, you have a constant term which is just log of k1. Okay, so f beta behaves like beta minus log of k1 at the second order. Okay, so the proof of this is quite technical, so maybe we'll take a 5-minute break before starting it. Okay, so before starting the proof, maybe some comments. So so this function f beta, it's given by, so on one side it's given by the inverse of this function. Minus log sum n larger than 1. Exponential minus bn kn. Okay. So this function is analytic. So therefore, our function f is analytic everywhere except at the critical point. So by analytic, what I mean is that you can write, you can write f as a limit of a power series at every point. But if you don't know what this means, you can say that f is infinitely derivable. Okay, and therefore beta c, it's a unique point where f is not analytic. Of course, f, it's a limit of 1 over n log zn, beta, and it's a limit of functions that are analytic. Okay, because here it's a log of something that is positive and analytic. So. And therefore, the fact that a phase transition occurs at beta c, it is marked by the fact that it's a point of non-analyticity of the free energy. Okay, and this is believed to be, in general, true in all models of statistical mechanics. Okay, so when physicists talk about theoretical physicists talk about phase transition, they don't necessarily mean a difference like, okay, you have the free energy equal to 0 on one side and positive on the other side. What they really mean is that you have a break in the analyticity of the curve. Okay? And another thing that physicists study is the order of a phase transition. And, okay, so if f is discontinuous at beta c, the phase transition is said to be of first order. And so this is, for instance, the case for the Ising model when the temperature is sufficiently low. If f is n minus 1 times derivable, differentiable at beta c, it is said that the transition is of order n. Okay? So here in our particular case, we know that n grows like, f grows like the power alpha to the minus 1. So it kind of indicates that the order should be the integer part of alpha minus 1. Okay, I write with commas here because in fact, okay, it's not because it grows like, I mean, you can have a function that grows like x to the n, and which is not n times derivable. But a priori, this is what it kind of seems to indicate. So this is one of the reasons this model is interesting, is that you have one parameter alpha, okay, which is the tail exponent of your return probability. And by varying this, you can obtain phase transition of arbitrary order. Okay, so if you want to then kind of know how the properties of the system change when the order of the phase transition is changed, basically it's sufficient to choose the right alpha. Okay, so now let's try to move to the proof. So what I have.
If alpha is less than 1, it's 0, the order?
If alpha is more than 1, the order is 1. Okay? Because the free energy, it's always continuous. To have.
Of course, there. Is the less?
If alpha is less than 1, okay, this is larger than 1. This is alpha minus 1, and I take the integer part. This is
If alpha is less than 1, the integer part is 0.
no, this is alpha minus 1. This is 1 over alpha. So it's alpha to the minus 1.
Okay, I thought that it was alpha minus 1.
No, it's, and here as well, it's alpha minus 1. It's 1 over alpha. Okay, so what I've not said earlier, but what we have seen in the computation is that if you replace Kn by Kn over 1 minus K infinity, okay, what it will just shift your phase diagram to 0. Okay, and this will be the only consequence. So this is the consequence of the expression we have for the free energy. Okay, so therefore we can assume now that K infinity is equal to 0. Okay, because this property is invariant by the translation, of course. So in the proof, let's assume that K infinity is equal to 0. If not, you just do the proof for this renewal, which has the same free energy diagram. Okay? So now we want to know the asymptotic around 0 of f beta, around 0 for coming from the right. And therefore, what we just need to know is the asymptotic of g beta, which is the inverse of f beta, of gb, which is the inverse of f beta. And okay, what we need to show is that gb is equivalent to, so let's see, okay, ck okay, I guess this is the right thing. Okay, showing that f beta is equivalent to this. This is equivalent to show that the inverse has this equivalent. Okay, you just invert the equivalent and you have the right to do so. So let's try to prove this. So okay, so it's obvious then when b tends to 0. GB is continuous at 0 and it tends to 0, so that's fine. And therefore, we can replace minus log of this. It's equivalent to 1 minus sum from n larger than 1. Okay. Log x, when x tends to 1, it's equivalent to 1 minus x. Okay. So what we need, so what we need is to find an equivalent, an asymptotic equivalent for this guy. Sum for n larger than 1 of exponential minus bn. 1 minus exponential bn kn. Okay. So what I did here is I transform the minus log into I transform minus log x into 1 minus x, and it's equivalent. And then I incorporated the 1 here because, okay, the sum of the kn is equal to 1, because our assumption. Okay? Okay, so now let's start with the case alpha larger than 1. Okay? So we will rewrite this sum. So we'll put b outside. Okay, 1 exponential minus bn. Okay. We divide by b to compensate here. We divide by n, and we add n kn. Okay? So now, you know that 1 minus exponential minus x over x, it's uniformly bounded. On R plus. So this quantity is uniformly bounded. And it tends to 1 when x goes to 0. Okay, so what we will do is use the dominate convergence theorem to say that this sum, it converges to this. Okay? So because the sum converge, this thing is equivalent to this. Okay, and here we have sum of k and k. And this is this sum is finite because this is kn. Morally, I can replace it by n to the minus 1 plus alpha. And here I have the assumption that alpha is larger than 1. Okay, alpha larger than 1 corresponds to initial renewal with finite mean. Okay, so this is exactly the result we wanted. And okay, this term here is just a term that you obtain when you replace k by k hat, we normalize. Okay, so this was the easy part. Now when kn is not integrable, of course, this sum will diverge somehow. But it will have a larger equivalent. And what we will try to do is to guess why it has a. Okay, how to see? We will try to see why the equivalent is something like b to the power alpha. Okay. Okay, so we will do as before. So we will rewrite our sum as b to the alpha times the sum when n goes to 1, 1 minus exponential minus bn, nb to the power alpha, and what I have here is n to the alpha n to the alpha kn. I put some b here in front, and this is what I have. And here I have n to the 1 plus alpha. So let me rewrite the sum in this manner. Okay? So now this term, when for most of the I know from here basically that the terms that are going to be important are the terms with large n. So the terms with large n, for those terms I will be able to replace this by ck because of my assumption on kn. Okay? So the sum I will be interested in is b sum n larger than 1 minus exponential minus bn, and b to the 1 plus alpha. Okay, so I just hope that things are going to be fine, and I just need to find an asymptotic for this. And I will later try to justify this. So now things seems to be nicer because, okay, remember b tends to 0. So this really looks like a Riemann sum for some function, g alpha of x, which is defined by 1 minus exponential minus x over x to the 1 plus alpha. Okay? And, okay, I would need to check that this function is integrable. But I know that alpha is smaller than 1. So what I have is that g alpha of x is equivalent to x to the minus alpha when n goes to 0. Okay, because this is equivalent to x here. So this is integrable near 0. Okay, and it's equivalent to x to the minus alpha plus 1 when x goes to infinity, so it's integrable on R plus. Okay? So then you can check that the limit when b goes to 0 of the sum for b larger than 1, b, g and b, g alpha and b, it converges, it's equal to the integral from 0 to infinity of g alpha x dx. Okay, so it's a Riemann sum, but the function is not bounded and you're not on a segment, so you have some things to check at the boundary. But it's nothing very exciting and nothing very difficult. So I guess you can trust me on that. So now what we have to check is whether that we can indeed replace this term. So the second thing we need to check is that the limit when b goes to 0 of b sum when b goes to 1 of g alpha and b times this. This I leave it to you, and this, the second thing we will prove it. So I have kn n to the 1 plus alpha, let's say, over ck minus 1 equals 0. So here, in order to get an asymptotic, I allowed myself to replace this by ck. Okay. So if we do this, we know that b alpha integral of g alpha x dx Ck is the right asymptotic. But what we need to check is that the remaining term is indeed negligible. So this is the aim of this part. Okay, and so to show this, what you do is you split the sum in two terms. So okay, we'll show that basically this is smaller than epsilon for when n is large enough. So what you know is that when you fix epsilon larger than 0, and you know that when n is larger than C1, this is smaller than epsilon. Okay, if you choose C1 correctly. And we call C2 to be the max from n smaller than C1 of Kn and 1 plus alpha minus Ck. Okay, so I guess we can do this here. So this sum, B times the sum, it's smaller than the sum from n smaller than C1 of, I have a B in front, and I have G alpha Bn, and I have and 1 plus alpha minus 1. And I have a second term, which is n larger than C1, G alpha Bn, Kn 1 plus alpha minus 1. Okay. So the first term, it's smaller than, okay, so I have a bound for G alpha, which I will call, let's say, C3. So the first term is smaller than B times C3 times C2 times C1. Okay, I have C1 terms, and all the terms are smaller than C2 times C3. So when B goes to 0, this goes to 0. Okay, and the second term, it's smaller than epsilon times the sum when n goes to 1 of G alpha Bn. Okay. And if B is small enough, because of the convergence, we know that this is smaller than 2 times the integral of G alpha x dx. Okay, so as epsilon is arbitrary, this implies that this guy goes to 0. Okay, so we have our equivalent, which is b to the alpha times the integral of G alpha times Ck, which is not exactly what we look at, because what we want is Ck times gamma 1 minus alpha over alpha. So what we have to check is that okay, and the B alpha is okay, but this is the right exponent. This is what gives 1 over alpha for the. But we have to check is that this integral is gamma 1 minus alpha over alpha. Okay. So the integral of g alpha x dx, it's equal to the integral of 1 minus exponential minus x over x to the 1 plus alpha dx. So I do some integration by parts. The boundary conditions, they are 0 everywhere, so I will just have to consider the term where I integrate one function and differentiate the other. So if I differentiate this, it will give me exponential minus x. And if I integrate this one, it will give me x to the minus alpha over alpha. So this is where I get my gamma 1 minus alpha over alpha. Okay, so I guess to end this week, what we can do is to get back to where we were, which is a pinning of simple random walk, and to see what asymptotic it gives for the free energy. Okay? So, if you do remember, okay. What we will do to end the thing is to prove this. Look at Z and beta, you can easily bound it by saying, okay, I will only consider the trajectories that makes n jumps. Okay, and what the bound I get by doing this is exponential n beta times k1 to the power n. So it tells me that f beta is larger than beta minus log k1. Okay, but okay. So in particular, it tells me that f beta goes to infinity. And once I've done that, I know that exponential minus f beta is equal to sum from n equal 1 to exponential minus n f beta. N. Okay. But because f beta tends to infinity, this sum is equivalent to its first term. Okay, asymptotically. Well, it's also because the kn decreases, but it's not complicated to see that this is equivalent to k1 exponential minus f beta. Okay? So once you have this equivalence, well, it's really what you have really is that okay, beta is equal to minus log k1 plus f beta plus little o, which is what. So basically, it tells you that when beta is large, the trajectories, they look very much like this. Okay. What you will tend to do is to do as much jump of length 1 as you can. Okay, so I mean, all of this should tell you that this approach with renewal is much more powerful than what we had with the random walk. And let's try to see okay, what we get for the free energy. So what the transition looks like. With a simple random walk, remember that we had Kn, which is equal to P to 1 equals N, was asymptotically equivalent to 1 over 2 square root of pi times n to the 3 half. Okay, so in particular, as alpha is equal to 1/2. So what this means is that f beta is equivalent to C simple random walk times beta minus. Let's go back to our beta minus log 2 to the power 2. Okay, so this is when we identify the power, which is 2, which is what we had for a lower bound earlier with some log correction. And now let's try to analyze who the constant is. So, okay. So let's try to compute. So Ck is 1 over 2 square root of pi times gamma 1 minus alpha over alpha. And then we will put that to the power 1 over alpha, but to the power minus 1 over alpha. Okay. Alpha is equal to 1/2, so it will cancel with the 2. So it's just equal to 1 over square root of pi times gamma of 1/2. Okay, if you look at gamma of 1/2, it's equal to the integral from 0 to infinity of exponential minus x over square root of x. And this is equal to so if you do a change of, if you perform a change of variable, what you get is exponential minus u square du. Let's see, and there is a constant. X equals u square. It means that dx is equal to 2u du. So you have a 2 here. Okay, and what it should give me is so this is the integral from minus infinity. So this is square root of pi. Okay, so this is just 1. Okay, so in the case of the simple random walk, in fact, all these things cancel, and what we've proved is that the free energy takes off like beta minus log 2 to the square. So in fact, this would be possible to, it would possible to show that directly, but it would be much, much, much more painful. Okay, because this is what you, the free energy like beta square, it would be what you would get if you try to if you take a Brownian motion and if you replace and you do the same thing, but except of you replace hn of tau by the local time at 0. Okay. In that case, okay, you have the Brownian motion, you know everything about it, so you can compute the free energy, which is exactly beta square. But then you have to pass through the limit to show that the random walk indeed converge to Brownian motion, but that also all the quantities converge, and this is what you would get. Okay. So
It's not square root of 2 pi.
no, because you have no 2 here. I double check to be sure that you get the 1 at the end. Okay. So thank you.